formal, it's like, oh, okay,
No, exactly.
we're
And that's how,
professional.
like,
It's
even
fine.
with Shayla, like Shayla, me and Shayla are really good friends, and like even us just sitting in conversation, like having a conversation in person was just so awkward. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. It's
Right.
like when like informal relationships like meet in a
Have to
formal
be
setting, it
formal.
just feels weird.
Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. And so, welcome to my second conversation, Coaching Conversations, Game Changers, focusing on conversations with coach mentors. And so, today I'm really fortunate to have Megan Conroy here with me today. Megan is the technical director for Volleyball Nova Scotia. She established the She Can mentorship program, focusing on women in coaching positions. And I'm fortunate enough to call her a friend and a mentor as well. She's provided me a lot of guidance over the last few years. So, I'm really happy to have her here. And I'll ask her to briefly introduce herself just to get right into it.
Awesome. Thanks, Shania. Well, thanks for asking me, first of all. Obviously, it's an area I'm super passionate in. Being a female in sport, in leadership, my original roots from St. John's, Newfoundland, and have moved to Nova Scotia 10 years ago now, actually almost 11. So proud to call Avonport, Nova Scotia home. Um, and I think I've been involved in sport my whole life. I've been involved in a lot of different sports from like synchronized swimming, as it was called, artistic swimming, to like tap dancing, to softball, to soccer, basketball, volleyball, track and field, badminton. Like I've dabbled in everything, including like just like being out in a field and like throwing a ball around.
Yeah.
And so from informal to formal as a participant, and then um, I think I was fortunate enough when I was in grade 12 to be asked, which is a key thing, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, to be a coach for our grade 10 boys volleyball team because they didn't have a coach. And my phys ed teacher was like, hey, you know some things about volleyball, which I had kind of like focused in on my main sport at that time. And he was kind of like, hey, like, are you interested in coaching these guys who you go to school with, which was also interesting. Um, I'll stay and be like the teacher sponsor. We'll practice right after school, like before your own practice, and take them to like one or two tournaments, and we'll call it a year. So I was like, okay, sure. I'm confident whatever practice I did in my own team, I like ran the next day with the boys team. I hadn't really had no formal coaching education or experience at that time. I mean, I babysat. I probably did some like coach younger kids at camps or like sessions, but nothing like that and nothing on my
Formal.
own where I was like in the
Yeah.
leadership role and had to do the planning and had to figure out. I don't know. I was in way over my head, let's just say. But it all went really well. And then I went to university. I went to Memorial University, and I did 2 degrees there. So I did my Bachelor of Physical Education and then a Bachelor of Intermediate Education combined with a Technology and Information Technology, which is, yep, I knew some
It's a
IT stuff.
mouthful.
That's a weird one. And while I was there, I played varsity volleyball for Memorial. Um, for 4 years. So I think I never stopped coaching that whole time. I was playing a varsity sport and coaching, and that's a lot, and going to
Oh yeah.
school. But there's something about coaching that just ignited something in me. I've always had a passion for volleyball, but giving back to the community, providing opportunities for athletes to play. And even though I started out coaching boys, I flipped to girls after the first 2 years and have kind of primarily stayed there as a coach. And then when I finished, I was a phys ed teacher for 8 years, 5 in Newfoundland and 3 here in Nova Scotia. And obviously that involved a lot of coaching and
Yeah.
coaching multiple teams and working in the volleyball community. I did all my work terms in university at the Newfoundland Volleyball Association. So I kind of had a hint of like what a sport organization kind of looked like.
Looks like. Yeah.
Um, and was involved with coaching provincial teams, like similar to yourself. So kind of got to know the inner workings, but got to see the behind the scenes too as a work term student. And then was just trying to find my footing teaching here in Nova Scotia, and the technical director job came up for VNS, and a lot of people who were mentors to me were like, "Hey, I think you could do this, and I think you should apply." And I was like, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things of like, I felt reasonably confident I could do the job, but did I want to leave teaching, which is a
Yeah.
pretty stable profession to be in, to kind of take a leap of faith and like follow and turn my passion into my career. But like I said, I had lots of really great people kind of like shoving me in that direction and letting me know I could do it. And so I did. And yeah, I'm almost finished my 9th year with VNS now. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And like, I know for myself, like, I got into coaching after you like playing sports. Like, it was my
mm,
connection to be involved still. So it's interesting. Like, you're one of the first people I've really talked to who started coaching while they were playing and then continued throughout their university career. So as somebody who went through a little bit of that, like, I can only imagine how busy that schedule was and like how big of a learning curve was that at first. Like you said, like doing the practices that were like almost ran the day
my
before.
gosh.
Like I find when we first start, like that's what we do. We imitate the coaches that we had, thinking that's what we're supposed to do. So like one thing we'll get into this a little bit more in our conversation is like having that one-on-one relationship that allows you to like challenge those personal beliefs, like why are you doing
Hmm.
that, and there is value as to why, but just like having somebody that question you and like support you, believe in you. And I really think, like, you know, like you said, like having the mentors that support you into this role, like it's super important, whether it's formal or informal. Like as coaches, we're supporting so many other people, and we often lack that personal support. So I think it's really important that, like, even off the top of this conversation, like you really talk about how influential like some people were that pushed you into this role. And then can you just describe a little bit of what your role entails right now with Volleyball Nova Scotia as a technical director?
Yeah, the cool thing about my job is that it's really evolved over the last 8 years. When I started with VNS, there was just two of us. It was myself and our executive director. That was the only staff we had. We would get at one or two summer students in the summer that would kind of help us run our beach programming. But other than that, it was like two people doing all the things that our organization does, which when I think about that is crazy because now we have four full-time employees.
Yeah.
And a lot of the same things that I did when I first started are still things that are existing, but four people, it's enough to fill four jobs and probably a fifth. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really interesting. I think so. Where I am now is I take a lead with our ED on helping the club system function in Nova Scotia. So I help with like competitions, you know, regulations, playing rules, kind of like working with Volleyball Canada to make sure our club season like parallels the nationals as much as it can so that there's alignment like across Canada. So I kind of am a liaison to Volleyball Canada to VNS to figure those things out. And a big part of my role in the club season is working with coaches and helping coaches progress in their coach education, letting them know it's a thing, that there is
Yeah.
some formal education that's available. And then I guess that's kind of what my role has morphed into really is like coach pathways, helping coaches develop, supporting our like performance coaches who are trying to get into TMNS. But that kind of leads into John, my colleague, who is kind of like the TMNS guy. So I kind of support coaches right from grassroots up, um, from the formal NCCP education, but also in the non-formal, which I think is like just as valuable as the formal. The formal is great and it gives you some structure and gives you some like I hate this word pedagogy. It's such a buzzword. I don't hate it, but it's such a word I heard so often in my
Yeah,
education
exactly.
degree. I'm sure you can resonate with that. But it's just providing them some foundations and structures and um, to start with,
Mhm.
and create connections so that coaches can then start to develop their own coaching style, coaching philosophies, who they want to be, what they want to be as a coach, and then help them through some non NCCP PD as well. And a lot of that circles around mentorship for sure, which we'll continue to talk about. So yeah, those are my big roles. It's kind of narrowed down a little bit to like club and coaching, a little bit of grassroots and smash ball and helping that get started as
Mhm.
well, which is kind of on fire here in the province lately, which is really cool to see, which is just our programming for 6 to 12 and trying to get kids involved in our sport earlier, but from a developmentally appropriate
Yeah, exactly.
lens and not getting like 7-year-olds to play the like traditional game of volleyball. So that's been
Yeah,
kind of fun too.
exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. And just even like thinking back to like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been an athlete then, but like you said, you only had two people working for the organization. Now it's four, that could be five. Like just the growth of our sport obviously like reflects to like the work that you guys have been doing, and like, you know, coach, like growing the coaching aspect, growing the athletes, and just like having like a great network that we're able to reflect on. Like I really think that's a testament to like how much how successful I think the work you guys do behind the scenes has really come to light. Um, and then, so you also developed the She Can Mentorship Program. Can you maybe describe a little bit of your vision on what you thought when you were planning that, and then like maybe some what the anticipated goals are of these kind of programs?
Yeah, I think yeah, She Can Coach, I guess like probably conceptually came about 3 years ago. We're just finishing our second cohort, as you know, in 2025. So it was probably 2023 that I started thinking about, and I guess it was more recognizing some gaps that are in our sport, and I don't think we're unique in that sense. I think it's probably gaps that are right across sport in Canada, around a gap in female and those who identify as female in leadership roles in our sport. And specifically, head coach roles is where the gap is. If you look at our numbers, we actually have, I think we're at like 65 to 70% female coaches in our sport, which is the opposite. And other sports would like die to see those numbers in terms
See those
of their
numbers?
their
Yeah.
population. But if you look at the percentage of people of our participants of our sport, it's still under that. Like our participants are probably 85 to 15% female, so we're still under there. But when I so like we feel good about that number, but when I really looked at more details on that number, when I started looking at what roles are these coaches taking, at
Yeah.
what age group are they taking on these roles, the numbers started to give a different picture. So what I saw is that um, there's a lot of female coaches. Most of them are assistant coaches. If they are head coaches, most of them are at 15U and under. When it got to 16, 17, 18, and beyond, I mean, that's outside of our scope, but even if we looked at like ACAA teams, like AUS
Yeah.
teams, at that time, the numbers actually flipped. So it was like 70% male, 30% female in those head coach specific roles, and especially as the age groups got higher. So I was like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think as an organization, you can look at that first number and be like, tick, we're doing that. From a funding perspective, that looks great to our funders, which it's still good. We're still proud of that, but there were still some gaps that needed to be addressed, and that's why She Can Coach kind of came to fruition in the sense of I wanted to be able to provide more female coaches with the support, the confidence, the knowledge, and create a network so that they felt like they could go for these head coach roles at these older age
Mhm.
groups or at these more experienced age groups, instead of kind of hanging out in assistant coach roles when they felt like they might be able to take on those head coach roles and just feel more confident to go after those roles, as opposed to kind of where we were currently. So my thought was
Yeah.
like, how can I do that? And how can I have the most impact? And for me, I totally piggybacked off of the Black and Indigenous Mentorship Program that Mark and Anne created. So I will forever give them credit for kind of conceptualizing a program that seemed to work. Having been a part of that, I was super grateful and saw the inner workings of how that went on. But just coming up with a mentorship program that was not burdensome on anybody who was involved,
Yeah.
because time is so valuable for coaches that adding another thing on the plate of people who are already busy doesn't help. So it had to be something
Exactly.
that wasn't burdensome to the mentors and mentees, but it still had to have value. Because if it's surface level, like, what's the impact going to
Yeah.
be?
Exactly.
And I think one of the things I learned from that is that in-person contact was really key. And that's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
how we kick off the program, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's kind of where the
Yeah.
conceptualization came, and I guess the goal, to answer your second question, the goal is to have more female coaches in head coaching roles and in leadership roles, whether it's like head coach roles, club directors, program directors, even like we can, hopefully we're going to expand into refereeing in the future. That's like the long-term goal.
Yeah.
But be in these leadership roles in our sport and feeling confident enough to do so, and hopefully by creating a network of people and kind of having some people in our corner, as well as building some confidence and skills, where they feel a little bit more equipped to take on those roles in the future.
Oh yeah, like I can even attest to like being a participant in the Black and Indigenous mentorship program as a mentee, like being that paired with the original apprenticeship program that I worked with Volleyball Nova Scotia through. Like I can really attribute like a lot of who I am like as a coach today to those experiences, and it's not because of how I went into it. It's because of what I learned through it and the people that I had involved with it. So like you and I still connect, maybe informally, not as much, but you were a big part of me getting involved in that program. And like one specific thing that really sticks out is like I was super intimidated to be in the gym with the provincial program. I had never played at that level, so like I was intimidated. Like I had that imposter syndrome that we talk about like in our program. And I
Mhm.
remember something very specific, something so small. I remember one of the head coaches getting a little bit frustrated that we didn't know where to stand, and you just simply came over and said, "Hey, like I like to stand here. This is what I can see, and this is why." And I feel like just like that moment really opened my eyes to like I have the support, and like when I lean on these people, like they are going to provide me with the right knowledge that I need. And so I feel like it's, you probably don't remember that, but I feel like for me it's a big moment, and like
I love it.
it really turned my confidence. Like feel like I was a lot more, I felt a lot more like I belonged there than like in previous years where I kind of hid back and like still wasn't 100% sure. So like yeah, like just the network of coaches that we've developed through these programs, like I can really attest to like how it's not only shaped my confidence, but just like really the knowledge that I've gained, not just sports specific, but like how to interact with people as well is just something that's incomparable to what I would have had without it. So people like you are, like I said, like I'm very fortunate to have those contacts, and you know, like you being in a leadership role as a female, like it's something that we can look up to, and like we can see ourselves in doing things that you're able to do because you're in this role. So not to like pump your tires a little bit, but
Oh, I listen, I'll take it, but like I will say, like up until 2024, late in 2024, I was the only female technical director in the country, like the
yeah,
entire
oh,
time that I've
honestly,
worked here. And
yeah,
now Manitoba has a female, which I'm loving. And there are a few more like as as volleyball associations get bigger, there's more roles. So like there's some more females at the table and it's not just me. But being able to see people in these roles, like I was fortunate enough, a lot of my head coaches were women. As I came through volleyball, particularly, my head coach at university was a female and might have been one of two in out of 9 teams in Atlantic Canada in the AUS at the
mm,
time, and she was also a technical director with volleyball Newfoundland. So being able to see somebody in those roles, like it is critical, I would
yeah,
think. And I think I had,
absolutely.
like I said, just having great people in my corner who believed in me. It's just it's 100% why I'm here. Like I did the work. I'm not going to take away from myself, and like I've worked really hard to be where I am and cultivate the relationships that I have to be like privileged enough to be in a leadership role in a sport organization, but I 100% would not have been here without those people in my corner helping me, encouraging me, making me feel like I belong in these spaces where oftentimes I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, I that's a really good point there. And then just to keep going in a little bit more about the program. So you did kind of
Yep.
answer the question, like what gaps are you aiming to address? So you clearly stated like lack of female leadership in, or sorry, lack of females in leadership positions. And then like a little bit more like, so how do you go about selecting your mentors and your mentees? So like, how do you feel like you're choosing the best participants, what that are put forward?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I think number one was really important to me to hold spaces for mentees that were from like racialized and underrepresented communities, particularly from like indigenous communities. Like that has been at the forefront since we started this program, to make sure that and like seats are held. It's not just like, hey, if you're 12th that you apply, like you're in. If you're 15th, you're out. Like we make that a priority. As well as making sure that coaches, it wasn't just coaches from our metro region. Because in Halifax, it's not that there's not coaches who can benefit from this program. And if you look at a lot of head coaches, there's still a lot of men in those head coaching roles in the city. But there's just a more condensed like area and opportunities for mentorship and leadership from other coaches in HRM than there are in other areas of our province. And
Yeah, for
having
sure.
experienced coaches, being able to go in a gym and watch, to take away the like a mentorship connection, but just being able to go to an AUS game or go to an ACAA game and watch these teams play and see what the coaches are doing. That's not an opportunity that exists in every region of our province anymore, unfortunately, because we've lost some programming. So it was really important that those areas are it's tougher for them to grow if we don't have leaders in those areas who feel and have opportunities to become more confident. So that was a really big piece for me in terms of selecting mentees. Currently, it's on a first come, first serve basis of just like applications open. They close on a date, usually in the late in the fall, and I kind of take them first come, first serve because I didn't want to get into at this point yet anyway into having to need certain qualifications, because this program's intention is for like anybody who needs it and wants it. So who am I to say somebody who is in year 1 of coaching or someone who's in year 10 of coaching can't benefit from the program? So currently it's just first come, first serve, but we do prioritize coaches from like racialized communities as well as rural communities in Nova Scotia outside of HRM. So sometimes like those coaches get bumped up the list ahead of a Metro coach because they fit some of those qualities. And for mentors, for champions, honestly, I started asking people who are like good humans and people who I have had the opportunity to connect with and work with. In my time here at VNS, of people who like felt really passionate about what this program stands for and feel like it is important, because I guarantee you everybody I've asked didn't have time to do it. They did not have time. No, they have a million things on their plate. So it needed to be something that they were passionate about. They are all representing what this program, like what I hope it will become for all of the coaches that are participating, and like they are female leaders actively in our community. Some are like business owners, some are, club directors, some are coaches in their own communities, or leads in their programming. And trying again to like get some mentors from different parts of the province as much as we can, because again, in-person connections and also understanding the realities of the different regions that exist, I think it's important, because there's different coaches in different areas are facing different challenges or barriers to coaching and being in those leadership roles than another. There's a lot of commonalities, don't get me wrong, but I think there is an importance in understanding the nuances of each community as well, and just looking for support for coaches. But other than that, I literally just asked. I if I like sent out the emails and would say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? Can we either like went for a coffee or like had a phone call, and just kind of laid out the program. And amazingly, like everybody was just like, yeah, I'm in. Like it was shockingly quick at how all of the mentors got back to me. And one of the coolest things, and for me as like a program lead for this program, was so we did cohort 1 last year, and I think it was like in October or early November, I like texted everybody that was a mentor last year and was like, hey, what do you think for like, and literally like all of you within, I swear to God, like 6 minutes, like it was like, yes, 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 yes. Like everybody came back, they were immediately in. And I mean, one of our mentees turned into a mentor, which was great. So like we added Trudy this year. And that was just like one of the coolest moments I've ever had in my job, because it helped me, it like gave me confidence in the program that I'm running. It gave me confidence in like how it like just bolstered my passion and ignite for this program, how important it is when all of these people who are so busy were just like, absolutely, I'm back, let's go. And that was just a really cool, like informal piece of feedback that I got. That was real. And it's not because I think they feel obligated to say yes to me, but it's like they enjoyed it. They thought it was impactful.
Yeah.
They wanted to come back, and that was really cool.
Yeah, like one thing about like all the fellow mentors as well, like I feel like they're all there for the right reasons. Like we're there to develop the next generation. We're not there to focus on winning. We're there to meet people where they're at and where they want to be. So that's the one thing I like. Like it is a structured program in the sense that we have meetings and we have topics that we cover, but it allows for that flexibility for it to be modified based on your specific needs as a mentee. And so like you said, Trudy, like full circle, like participated as a mentee and then a mentor, like that just I think speaks to like how these programs can be sustainable in terms of keeping the right people involved when they're supported or they feel supported. So that's going to we'll get that into that a little bit further. But yeah, I just think like
Yeah,
the sustainability piece is like so important. And it's something I feel like we often forget about. Like, yeah, we just want to provide
100%.
coaches education, but why? Why are we doing that kind of thing? And I think that you clearly have an answer as to why this program exists. So, and so like I just kind of mentioned, like how is the program structured? So we do have like the informal meetings, whether it's text, Zoom meetings, whatever. But
Yep.
we also have the formal meetings as a group. So can you just maybe give a little bit more insight on, I guess, why you chose that structure and how you see it works?
Yeah. So our first connection as a group is in person for a full day. And I think that's, again, I learned that from participating in the Black and Indigenous program, but it's a critical piece. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I want to do this program without that in-person day. Um, because I think it just, like, in person means something. And like when you're
Yep.
sitting around, yes, there's like, we have things planned that we talk about on that day, but it just gives you like that like, water cooler time to just like chat, connect, get to know people. So that even though, I mean, if I had more budget, we would meet in person more often, but like
Yeah.
that one day in person eats up like 90% of the budget that I have for this program, but I refuse to let it go. Because I think it's critical to establishing connections, like establishing relationships and starting to build trust. Because I think it's really tough to have a meaningful mentorship connection if there's not trust. And
Yep.
that's really hard to establish, being like, hey, here's your mentee mentor.
Through
It
a
didn't come
screen.
about
Yeah.
organically. I'm
Yeah.
assigning people. So it it's not like sometimes there might be pre-existing relationships, but often there's not. So like,
Not.
how can you create that trust so that you feel like you can be vulnerable and like ask questions and be curious as the program continues if there's not that trust there. So I think the in-person day is really critical, to establishing trust. And we have some structured sessions during that day, but also some informal time to just like hang out. This year we added in like a technical piece, which I thought was kind of neat. And
Mhm.
lots of questions were asked, and that seemed to be enjoyed. So that was a based on feedback from the year before of like
Sure.
just getting some more specific volleyball knowledge.
Mhm.
Um, After the in person, yeah, the expectation is the mentees and champions are meeting every 2 weeks ish, and how they want to do that is, again, it's uniquely up to the people involved in that relationship, because some ways work better than others.
Yeah.
So forcing and making something mandatory other than, hey, I'd like you to connect, and the mentee is the one who should be reaching out to the mentor. Because I think also for a mentorship opportunity to work, like, there has to be some want from the mentee's
Yeah.
perspective, to hopefully driving that. And sometimes that's successful and sometimes it's not. Like, we've had hit or miss,
Nice.
you know, and that's okay. There's no stress over it. So yeah, they choose how to connect that way. Some people have been able to connect in person because they like live close to each other, and that's cool. Some don't. Like, one of my mentees lives in Sydney, so that's 5 hours away from me. So we weren't able to really connect in person a lot. But we figured it out. We did Zoom, and then, like you said, once a month we come together as a group to do some kind of PD, and that was important to me too, in terms of, so like we've got connections covered, we've got like independent support covered through like a mentee mentor relationship, but I also want it to move like knowledge and confidence forward,
Yeah.
on like general coaching topics. So the topics that I choose, are based off of like feedback or wants or questions that are coming up from mentors. When I'm checking in, like, hey, like, what are your conversations with your mentee like? What are there some topics that are coming to the top pretty regularly, as well as soliciting feedback on some areas that we can learn more on. And either if there's someone in house, in one of the mentors that has some expertise, then I'll lean on them. But this year we've had a bunch of different people come in, and a little bit last year as well, to do some presentations and bringing in some experts on these topics.
Mhm.
Because I'm not certainly not an expert on
Yeah.
everything. So I think that's really cool to just come together. It's they have the schedule right from the beginning, so it's like, hey, carve this out if you can. If someone doesn't come, like, I'm not like being like, where are you? It's not that type of program. Like, hopefully it's something they want to attend, So like attendance is usually pretty good. There's always people that got stuff on the go or it conflicts with the practice and they're the head coach and life goes
Yeah.
on. But the feedback on the sessions have also been really high on that. People felt like they could relate to the topic. So like we've done things like imposter syndrome, being a great assistant coach, having tough conversations. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones we did this year.
I know, I'm
What
trying to
else did
think
we
as
do
well. I
this
know
year?
we've done like, I don't know if it was this year, but
Coach referee
yes,
relationships.
yeah,
So that was a bit more like volleyball specific, but that was really cool. Managing our load as females in leadership positions in sport. So yeah, we've just had some like incredible people come in, and again with all those people and that are coming in to talk, I'm just like, hey, like, what do you think? And they're like, oh yeah, like I'm in. Now we do like I do either pay them or provide
an
um
honorarium of some
gift
type.
cards
Yeah,
or something. Yeah, because I also strongly believe that people deserve to be paid for their time and their expertise. Like all our mentors get an honorarium. None of them ask for that. Let me be clear, but again, that's the other part of my budget that I won't give on. Because I think it's important to compensate people for their time and their involvement in what they're doing. A lot of what we do as volunteers and females in sport is like we get asked to do a lot and we don't often get
yeah,
compensated for it. So when we have the opportunity to do that, I think it helps. Like money shouldn't like make me feel like
yeah.
I'm not worth something if I don't get paid. But I also think it's like I want to show appreciation to the mentors that like I appreciate your expertise, your time, your energy that you're bringing to the program, and I do value that. So like here's a small thank you
Yeah.
for them doing that.
Yeah, like it's nice to be recognized, like even in Indigenous communities, like working for the Indigenous sport unit, we provide an honorarium for participants, whether it's review committee or any type of cultural learnings, because like you said, like it is valuable. Like you have valuable knowledge to share, and you're taking the time to do it, and so it's not something that people ask for, but it's like a sign of respect. Like, hey, you have some
Totally.
really valuable insight, and if you weren't here to share this, like we wouldn't have this. So like maybe it's something big, something small, but like having that little token of appreciation goes a long way. And
Totally.
then just like kind of reflecting back to the topics like we talk about, like when I first entered the Black and Indigenous mentorship program, like we kind of discussed, like this is paired off of like I wasn't sure what to expect, like knowing there was coaches of other sports as well, but the conversations that we had were like you said, like tough conversations, like referee relationships. So like those are aspects of sport that you may not think of when you're entering the coaching world. Like you might think it's just going to be show up, I have a practice plan, we're going to do skills for the day, but that's not it. Like we were missing like the people's piece, like like
Mm.
we're taking care of youth who are developing, so like the nutrition piece, the mental aspect piece. So like I really think there's so much value to these programs that have those, maybe not like sports specific PD sessions, but like general coaching sessions, because like I can tell you, like the tough conversations one, we've had that a few times over the years, and it's still something like you learn something about every single time. It's
100%.
something that unfortunately doesn't go away, right? So yeah, like it there's a lot of things of coaching that we think we're getting into, and it's a lot more than our initial, what we sign up
Totally.
for. So
Well, I mean, I think
uh,
if you were an athlete prior to becoming a coach, like that's what you see. Like that's what you see from your coach. You see your coach
mhm,
like planning practices and running drills and like taking you to tournaments and coaching and like that's what we see, but we don't understand that's like, that's the head above water and we don't see the legs doing the millions of things behind.
yeah,
And it's it's tough without some guidance. So it's
oh yeah,
tough to know like, gee, I never really thought about that. Like I think our conversation around like culture and team culture in our in-person session, like I repeated that this year. I'll probably repeat it again next year because it's so impactful early in a coach's season to be like, oh, like if I intentionally think about some of these things early in my season, that might actually make the conversations that I get the week leading into provincials about playing time a little easier because like I've
easier,
done some legwork to talk about
yeah,
that. So yeah, I think it's an area that if you don't know what you don't know. So there's all these other
exactly,
things about coaching that when we're first coming into it, we're like, oh yeah, I can run a few practices, no problem.
yeah.
And
I
then
can
we're
hit
like,
a ball.
oh
I
my
know how to do
God,
this.
how
Yeah,
do I do all this?
exactly, exactly. And then kind of like bouncing towards the sustainability piece of coaching a little bit more. So like just like briefly, like what does sustainable coaching development mean to you?
Oh, well,
Like,
to me, like sustainability means ongoing. Um,
yeah,
it's and I think like that's a huge lesson I think I've learned in my like many years of coaching, but it's even in my like 8 or 9 years working for VNS is like drop in the bucket programs are like they're fine, and like there is improvement in something, whether it's the athletes, the coaches, the referees, like whatever aspect it's in there, it does add value, but the value can quickly get lost when there's like no follow-up. It's like, what's
yeah,
next? And if there's nothing, like we all know, like how many PD sessions have you attended as a coach and you're like in it, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. This is a good hour. And then
yeah.
like when it's over, you're like, like, okay, now I
I
gotta go cook
have
supper. I
this.
gotta walk my dogs. And like, unless something really sticks, it's gone because like we're humans and we're busy and we have, again, most of the people we're talking about are volunteers in this sport. Like I'm one of the few who gets paid to do this stuff for a living. That's not the norm. So it's tough to see the impact of those types of programs, and I think the impact is less than something that has some kind of reconnection, re-engaging opportunity beyond the initial program moment.
Mhm.
And sustainability means that it can also, I think the second part of it is that it's happening on its own. So like when I mean I would die if we ever got there in the lifetime of me working here, but like if I retire from BNS and like there's more female head coaches than males, I'll be like, I'm good. This is great. It's
Yeah,
not gonna happen. So being able to run programming like this, but also feel like when coaches leave these programs, that we're not just like, see ya,
yeah,
bye. Hopefully that was fun. I don't think that's super helpful. And then also, so what I would love is that we got to find ways to keep the connections going and build the community
mhm,
from like this lens of my program. Um, which is why this year I brought in the like team snap and like there's like a way to communicate as a group.
yeah.
And I hesitated to do it last year and I didn't because I was like, I don't want to add another thing. It's like another thing people have to check. It's another app that they have to use if they're not using that app. Like, so I was very cognizant of like the weight that I'm asking participants to carry in this program. So I didn't.
Mhm.
But when I thought about it and talking with some of the mentors, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it this year. People don't have to engage in it. I'll still send emails out for like the program
Mhm.
information. But if people want to engage, it's there. And like the engagement has been really high. I've been really
Yeah,
impressed with it. And also, it just creates that sense of community because if I'm not your mentee mentor, then outside of the monthly PD sessions, I don't see you. I don't
what is
interact
going
with
on?
you.
Yeah,
So the really cool community piece I think that I've seen come out of it this year that I'm loving is like there's interactions. Like I feel like we all know each other a little bit better because people are like writing in and sharing like, hey, this is a win for me. And I don't mean an actual win, a like,
yeah.
this
The,
this had this
their
this
own
kid like got
successes.
this skill today, or like, hey, I got an interview for a provincial team role. All these different things. Like Trudy got volunteer of the year, like that was thrown in there, and like people are congratulating her. So there just
Yeah,
is a much bigger sense of community this year, which I'm loving. And my hope is now, and like what I also did was invite the people from last year's cohort back to participate in some of the monthly PD sessions. So I don't want to take away from the participants of the current year, but like that's an opportunity where bringing people back in if they want to keep learning, they want to reconnect. It's a way to just like compound the community. So each year when we add 14
yeah,
or 15 new coaches, now we have 30 coaches in. Next year we might have 45. So all of a sudden now it's like we have like an army of coaches that are female out there doing the dang thing and being able to walk into a gym. I think this is one of the most common, cool comments I've heard from people from last year and this year is like walking into a gym and seeing a familiar face is like extremely powerful in terms of having a sense of belonging to where we go. To
yeah,
be able to look across the gym and say like, oh, there's Shania, oh, there's Laura, oh, there's Megan, or like give a wave. Doesn't mean you like, have like a 2 hour
yeah.
conversation, but just to walk in and be like, there's somebody else here like me. I know them.
No,
Um, it makes you want to keep walking in as opposed to like hesitating and not sure where to go. And it seems really small, but I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, and like even like the community like that we have like online sharing those successes, like a lot of times coaches don't feel like they deserve to like recognize the things that they've accomplished, right? So like having a space where like it's a safe space that you can reflect on it and people are supporting you, like it's not like if you telling a friend they're like, oh, she's being arrogant, like whatever, like everybody's here for the same reason, like we're all supportive, like we're all celebrating everybody's success. That's our goal. Have more people involved in sport, whether or not their success is winning a game or just accomplishing the skill, like you said, like that's defined differently for everybody. But in our sense of community, like we understand that. So I think we have something similar in the Black and Indigenous ship, like Black and Indigenous mentorship program this year, but it's not as active. So that's going to be one of the comments that I have like going into the second year of that program. Like, can we maybe have that little sense of community a bit more? Because like you said, it does allow us to know what's going on in other mentees or mentors' lives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a really, really great piece. Like that sense of community and that networking is so, I think, like undervalued or like not underthought about. Like it's
Yeah.
so important, whether it's like you said, like the formal or informal relationships. It's just having somebody to connect with that has similar values as you is just so powerful, especially in leadership roles.
I think
So I just have a
like
couple more.
coaches,
Oh,
sorry, I'll just say one last thing. Like
that's okay.
coaches,
No problem.
especially female coaches, like you might not have anybody in your life to have those conversations with. Like you might be coaching a team by yourself. So you don't even have like a coaching staff. If
Yeah.
you do have a coaching staff, that's great. But you might come home and like your family's like, what? Like I don't know anything about volleyball. I don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, but like this really cool thing happened. And they're like, that's great. Like we love that for you. But like you know what I mean? You just don't, so
Yeah.
to be able to like fire that in a group chat of people that are gonna be like, yes, girl, like go, like yes, this is amazing. To just or have like a oh, I'm really struggling there and to hear like six other people be like, oh my God, me too. Like I'm really struggling with that right now. It just makes you feel like you're not so alone.
Yeah,
To be able to
exactly.
have that. And I think the vulnerability piece, like again, you got to build trust to be more vulnerable. And some people are okay with it, but some people are quite reserved and it takes time to build that up. So um, but just knowing you're not alone, I think is really helpful. And even if you um even if you're not, even if you have a great support systems, but like I know my husband can only hear about volleyball so much. He's lovely and he's
Yeah.
great and he supports it, but like and he knows more than I ever thought he would. But you know, he doesn't he's like, that's great, I'm glad you're happy, but he doesn't like get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. He's happy for you that you're happy, but like not understanding it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the deeper perspective. And so I think this one would be a bit of like a bit of an interesting question because we've kind of talked about like success is different for everybody. So
Mm.
how do you measure the effectiveness or the success of a mentorship program? So like we're in our second year of a program, like after that first year, like what were you measuring your success off of?
Yeah, and I think it's I think I like had an idea of what I thought success would look like. I was like, I'm gonna track all these coaches and then like I'm gonna see for 2025 where they're coaching and what roles they're in, which I did. But like it wasn't that it ended up being like not that mathematical. It's a little bit more anecdotal. Um, so I think like running into so a lot of his like testimonials, like checking in on the coaches who
Yeah.
were involved last year to be like, hey, how's this season going? To hear them say like this moment was so powerful last year. Like I don't think I would I might be in the role I'm in if I wasn't in the program, but I feel so much more confident. Seeing coaches like apply for Team NS roles or like trying to move into head coaching roles if they weren't in them previously, or coming back and coaching again. Because you know,
Yeah,
not every
that's it.
coach, not every coach that was involved last year is coaching this year. And some of them had really tough seasons last year, so like there's probably some valid reasons why they're not involved this year. But I like my hope is that being involved in the program helps them at least like get through that year. Or if they were going to coach again, they feel like they have a few more tools to like maybe have a more create a more positive or like put some boundaries in for themselves or like feel a little bit better about getting involved again. Um, so it's kind of become a little bit more anecdotal than I thought it would be. I think having coaches keep coaching, that's immeasurable. And if what I was seeing is like a lot of people not, then I had to be like, okay, why? And like how can I
Why?
help? How can I help support that? There's lots of reasons, especially why females don't get involved in coaching because they're all the barriers for them getting in.
Yeah.
So there's some reasons that like I can't control, or like, you know, a mentorship program can't control, but there's some things that we can. Um, so I think, you know, looking at people who were involved last year, like we had, I think this year there's like 2 or 3 coaches who've like started clubs, who like
Yeah.
didn't, like they were coaching in another club, but now they've started a club or they've grown their club. So they've really taken on more than just a coaching role in another club. They've like really stepped full feet into it, into being club directors, which is kind of cool. Um, and I think, you know, watching them continue to be involved in coaching, and hopefully, you know, I can track them because I of my job, I can see
Yeah.
who's coaching again and what roles they're in. And I think that sustainability piece comes into that too, because it's also not a program where there may be like immediate like change in a role. Like
Yeah.
I don't think from participating in this program someone's like, "Oh, I can head coach all the things," or like, but maybe they're like, I think I can when I have the time, when I have the
Yeah.
space, and I have the ability, you know, life-wise to take on a head coach role. Like I feel more prepared, I feel more equipped. So I
Mhm.
think it would be short-sighted to say like, oh, we had, you know, 9 out of 15 coaches in head coach roles last year, and now only 7 of them are, or now there's 13. Like I think that would be a short-sighted measurement. So it's like part of it, I'm tracking it to be curious and find out the whys of, you know, why they went up a role or why they're not coaching. But I also think like the anecdotal testimonials that have come in are kind of really helpful to see like what's successful in the program and what's not. Because like how do you measure someone's confidence? Like how do you measure
Exactly.
someone's, you know, readiness to take on these roles? It's a tough one to measure.
Oh, 100%. Like at the end of the day, as long as we're providing them the knowledge that they need and like almost like setting them up like a stepping stone, like, hey, this is where we're starting now, but like, how can you accomplish your goals? Like, and maybe like providing them a little bit of insight, whether it is like the formal training piece or just getting in the gym a little bit more with older athletes. Like, again, everybody's success is different. So I think it's important that even from an organizational perspective, we recognize that because it's easy just to look at, like you said, like it's easy to look at, hey, we had 9 coaches last year and 7 this year. Like maybe it's not going well, but ultimately, like that's not a true reflection of the outcome of the program.
Yeah.
And like even from my perspective, like my mentee last year is not coaching this year. I just don't think she was prepared for the workload while being a university student as a head coach. So I am hopeful that she will coach again, but just knowing her circumstances of that, like it's impossible, like realistically, to be a head coach and be like somebody doing like a honors degree in like
Yeah.
science. Like it's just it's so hard, like especially on your mental load. So like from my perspective, like my mentee last year, I do have hope that she will go back into coaching, and if she does, like I'm still there to support her, whether it's not in the formal role, but it's still somebody that I know we have developed that relationship with, so anything she
Yeah.
needs, I'm more than happy to support her in whatever way that is. So just 2 more questions.
Yeah.
So what is next for your program? Like how do you see this maybe evolving over the next like 5 years?
Yeah. So my like I think my like short-term goals of the next maybe 2 or 3 years is sustainability for the program. So right now financially we are subsidized by support for sport. Last year they gave us a really generous funding chunk, which was great. And this year they gave us some, but it was a lot less. And next year it will be a lot less to nothing the year after that. So finding a way for this program to be sustainable financially, is something that I have to figure out, through like working with Jason, and looking at some different opportunities to find the money to do it, because I think it's really important. And I think, like I said, my no budge issue or things are the in person and the honorariums, and
Yeah.
that's literally where like almost the entire, because like we're a virtual program, so there's no
Okay.
cost to
Yeah.
that. So it's finding some sustainability to keep the program functioning, because I think the worst thing to do would be like not be able to run it. Like we're building
Absolutely. Yeah.
momentum. It's starting to become something people are talking about in the community, and it's like something people are putting on resumes when they're applying for coaching jobs, and so it is impactful. And it's a program, you know, like both years I've run it, I've had to tell people, sorry, we don't have enough space. So like we've always had more applicants than we had space for, and I suspect that'll continue to grow. um, as the program, continues to grow. So I think short term is sustainability. I like the model. I mean, there'll always be tweaks and little things happening based on feedback, but I like the model that we have. It's proving successful. It's proving manageable. Like I said, that load on top of everybody in it. So that's kind of the short term. The longer term goal is like I would love to have a parallel program for referees,
Yeah.
because I think it's a huge gap in keeping female referees involved, keeping referees involved in general.
In general.
And I know there's some, like, our referee group is starting to do some really great things with mentorship and providing some support, especially to newer referees.
Yeah.
But I think, like, this program, like, there's some people who've been coaching for a while who are mentees in this group, because like they might have been coaching, but it's not at a high level. It's not with like mentors who are super experienced. So there's, even though they might have 4 or 5 plus years on their coaching resume, this is still a program for them to find support. So I think for
Yeah.
referees, it would be the same thing. It doesn't have to be a new referee. It could be just a female out there like chugging away in Antigonish, and like they're reffing by themselves a lot because a lot of our
Yeah.
events only have one referee, and they're refereeing like 10 games in a row. So like there's not a lot of opportunity at like tournament to tournament to have like feedback, to have, building the skills that they need to function as referees. So I think that's kind of a cool parallel. And then I would see like there's opportunities to bring those groups together. And now it's a like coaching refereeing like network and building it kind of that way. So that's kind of where I see it going. The thing I always have to be careful of is that we still only have 4 people running this organization. So,
Yeah, exactly.
I have lots of ideas, but being able to
yeah.
run them and keep them sustainable for our organization is really important. Like, I absolutely could not run this program without the champions like yourselves who are volunteering to be a part of it. Cause like, I can't
Do
mentor
it all.
15
No.
people. Like, I don't have the capacity to do that. And I don't think that's good either. Like, lots of different voices, lots of different opinions and experiences and thoughts are incredibly important when it comes to mentorship. So yeah, that's kind of where I see it going, but I just want to make sure it's going to stick around. That's kind
Yeah.
of my biggest thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to get something off the ground, and like you said, like funding wise, once that ends, like let it go. But like ultimately, like we're able to find money to like. Well, I know it's not always easy, but we are capable of finding money for these types of programs. But like you said, like it's important that the people involved are willing to keep it going despite the challenges that they may have. And so maybe a little bit, not like a personal question, it's like an advice question. I like, given my role at Volleyball Cape Breton, I'm the technical director. I don't know what exactly the role is. I'm some type of director on the board. And one thing I've kind of wanted to work towards for the beginning of next season is like developing a resource for new coaches to like set them up on the right track. Like not a formalized version like the She Can program, but like just at least like a document to set them up. Because this year we did have a few newer coaches who just
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what to do. Again, imitating the behavior before them, so not understanding what they're actually supposed to be looking for. So for somebody maybe like me or somebody looking to start a similar program, like do you have any advice on like maybe where to start? Like maybe not keep it simple, like whatever, but like groundworks. Like what would you start with? How would you approach it?
I mean, this is going to sound ridiculously simple, but like I think the advice is to start, like
Yeah.
to do it. I think, again, things I've experienced in my job and as a phys ed teacher, as a technical director, sometimes is like I get that like analysis paralysis. So I'm like, I want to do something. I kind of have an idea, but like then my brain spins into like all the things it could be, and then I get really overwhelmed because I'm like, I don't know if I can do that and do it really well. So like I better not do that yet because I need to like get better at this. I need to find more resources. I need to have it perfect before I launch it. That is one of my own things that I'm always trying to work on. So somebody in a conversation I had one time, and it wasn't even necessarily a mentor of mine, but it was just like an impactful conversation. It was like, just start, just do something. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can acknowledge like errors and mistakes that happen, but like just start somewhere and start with something that's manageable.
Okay.
So I think like I mean, the beauty of this program is I think it can be applied anywhere at any level, and you can scale it to like what you need it to be in any sport, any level. But I think if I took away like one piece that I think is the most important, it's the connections and the relationships of having someone to go to when you don't know.
Yeah.
Because so many of us as adults, the world like changes so fast. There's so many emails coming in the inboxes, like they're so long, and you're trying to like to manage life. It's like it just gets a bit much. So to be able to have somebody where you can just be like, I know that Shania is wants me to ask questions and I don't feel like I'm burdening her. And because we've set up this like channel of how I can ask questions anytime. And that doesn't mean anytime boundaries. You
Yeah.
can set those in there. But like there's a mechanism and there's been a connection of like, hey, like I know you're gonna have lots of questions. I am here to be that person for you. So please reach out with the simplest of questions, even if you think you know and you want to clarify, you want to verify, like please reach out. I think that network and connection, even without the PD, without the like formality of She Can Coach, I think those are some of the most meaningful ways to impact people very quick. And then having a couple of resources around like, and keeping them simple of like, here's a one pager, like how to start as a volleyball coach. Like, here's your like PIA requirements. Like you got to have your safe sport, that like having a one page where it's like, hey, these are the 4 things you need. Here's the links to go do them. Before you set foot in a gym, these have to be done for us. Cool. Okay, I can do that in like November. I don't need to be doing that in like March.
Yeah.
So having a couple of resources that are like kind of like frequently asked questions. Like for me, I have like there's probably like 5 or 6 drafts sitting in my email draft box
That
that
you
like
just
I
have.
copy and paste because I get asked the questions all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I have to be aware of that too. And I'm like, okay, can I have a resource here that would like stop these questions from being asked? And like the answer is yes, because their website is terrible and we're getting a new one. So thank goodness for that. But yeah, so I think that's my advice is start, even if it's like small and not formal, and it might grow, you might move it forward, it might expand down the road because you might see based on like what the need is and you can kind of tailor it to that. So start and then kind of have some like open the networking, create those like relationships and openness of asking questions and support. And then like having a couple of basic resources on whatever those topics are, or just know where to send people. Like when people come looking for like, hey, do you have like, I'm really struggling to deal with a parent or like I'm struggling with nutrition or something. I'm like, hey, go to like the CSIA YouTube page. There's so much good stuff there if you have time to like, that's not if someone's looking for a quick answer, but they're looking for PD. I'm like, here, check these out. So like, I don't have the answers and I sometimes don't have the time, but I'm like, go here. So like, I know where to direct them. Even though it's not me that's going to necessarily give them the answer. So yeah.
Yeah, like I like what you said, like just get started and like understand it can be a working document, like it can be changed, things are going to change, things are going to be updated. So like I think that's what's most important. And then having like that informal community, like I know there's a lot of younger coaches. I was in that role myself. So I think it's important like letting them know, like reassuring them like, hey, these are normal challenges we're going to deal with, but like we're here to support you. I think that's what I think ultimately like how I should be approaching this
like,
next whatever
like
plan
bonus to that. Bonus to that would be like a, hey, let's do like a really like a 2-hour onboarding in-person meeting in January. Like I'll bring the coffee, tea, donuts. You guys come and like let's talk about a couple of things that are really important like for the beginning of your season. Here's Megan's email. She can be a great resource. Like Volleyball Nova Scotia is not some like I always find it funny when people like Volleyball Nova Scotia. I'm like, who do you think that is? Like, it's me and Jason and John and Veronica. Like, that's it. There's no like overlord organization. But like, I like to think I'm reasonably approachable. Like, people feel comfortable like coming to me and asking me questions. But that took time. A lot of people didn't know me when I started this job. Like, I'm not from here, so trying to figure out like who I was, how I operated, like that took some time to build trust and relationships with people too. But yeah, like that in person, bringing people together, that then starts to build the trust, starts to build the relationship, so that they're like, oh yeah, like I know Shania, she knows who I am. I'm not just some email address in her inbox.
Yeah.
Like, so that would be the
Yeah.
bonus part if feasible.
Yeah, no, perfect. I appreciate that. So conversation went a little bit longer than anticipated, but I kind of expected that.
Not
That's
shocked.
okay. Is there any other topics that you, or like comments that you wanted to like make to put forward now before we end, just about like the value of mentorship, or like maybe how it can be sustainable, like just any other comments that you might have?
I think, I think that hopefully the theme comes through in the kind of length of our conversation, just like how pivotal mentorship is to coaches in general. And I think especially for female coaches, especially for coaches from underrepresented communities, that the whole like see her, be her, like it's real.
Yes.
It's a real thing. And like I hope the mentors in my life understand how impactful they've been. Like I like to think I tell them, but whether they want to hear that or not, or like even that imposter syndrome of like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. They were extremely impactful on getting to where I am today. And I think mentorship sometimes sounds really scary to people because it feels like
Yeah.
it's this big thing and it has to be really formal. And I think the message around mentorship is that it can be informal. It doesn't have to be a big structured through an organized program. It literally is just somebody who you trust and who you feel like you can go to when you want to celebrate something, when you're struggling with something, and they're gonna provide you with some support. And I think the key thing is like I have different people that I call depending on what kind of support I need.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I need like a critical eye and I need someone who's like solution based, and I have a mentor that I go to for that type of that's what I need in that moment. But sometimes I just need someone to be like, you know what, you're doing your best. And like
Yeah.
it's more of like an emotional support mentor. That might
Yeah.
not be the same person. And for me, it's not. It's a different mentor. Um, so I think like for me, it's like it's a mentorship by like community. It's like my wellness team. There's lots of different people that I go to get different things on what I need and different perspectives. Um, and most of those for me have come up organically. Or yeah, it's not someone hasn't assigned me the
That's
mentor.
forced.
Yeah, it's just like something that comes out of like common goals and common values, and you're like doesn't mean you see everything the same way because you still might think differently and have different opinions, but like there's some core values that are similar. And
Yeah.
I think now in 2025, like those are things that people talk about a lot more openly. I don't know. No one talked to me about core values when I started coaching,
No.
or like they might have said coaching philosophy, and I'm like, that sounds terrifying. I'm not going near that because that sounds like some kind of like golden rule that I have to abide by. It sounds
Next
really
time.
scary. So like I'm more now of like what are things that are really important to me, and can I find somebody who that aligns with? Doesn't mean we think the same, but like our values are aligned, and I know that like they're gonna support me. So I think like it can sometimes it's a peer. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
somebody up the chain. It could be somebody like down the chain, somebody who's coaching a younger group, or maybe it's someone from a different sport. Maybe it's somebody from
Yeah.
like sometimes I go to someone who is not involved in volleyball at all. I'm like, here's the scenario. Can you tell me what you think from just like a total outside perspective? I give Wayne my thoughts on his electrical business all the time when he asks. So I don't know anything about it, but like I know how to I know how to conflict manage. I know how to
Yeah.
like communicate well, and I know how to be empathetic. And sometimes that has really helped him because he forgets sometimes that like his clients don't understand electrical like he does, and they ask
Yeah.
questions
Yeah.
and he thinks they're questioning his work, and I'm like, no, they have no clue what you're talking
What you're
about. Like
doing.
this is a genuine question. He's like, oh, okay. I was thinking like, and he was getting like, upset because they were like, he
Yeah.
thought they were questioning what he's saying. And I'm like, no, they're actually questioning. They don't know what you,
What's
what you
going
mean.
on? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's super helpful to have, I think, different mentors that are gonna, provide different things. And I think I'm pretty privileged to have a bunch of people. I've been in positions, I've been in coaching environments where I've met some really cool people that are able to help guide me along the way. And one of my most proudest moments recently as well was one of my mentors like reached out to me for my thoughts, and I was like, oh
Oh,
my
great.
god, this is crazy. Like you like it
Everything
was my
turned.
university coach, and I'm like, you spent
Mm.
so many years like being my coach and teaching me
Yeah.
things, and like I've been moved away for 10 years and she's coaching the Canada Games team for Newfoundland. And she's like, I got to get your thoughts on this. And I was like, oh my God, okay. It was like a really cool
Yeah.
kind of like 180 or 360 around that. So yeah, that's good. Mentorship
Yeah.
doesn't need to be formal. It can
Yeah.
be, but I think like thinking about what you need and sometimes recognizing that there might be different people who can provide that is just something to think about.
Yeah, like it's so important just to have somebody to reflect off of. Like if you are in a situation where like you're losing your mind, like towards the end of provincial, like nearing provincials, a lot of coaches are in that, they just need somebody to like keep them in check.
Yeah.
And like even like I like that you mentioned like having mentors in other sports, because that's one thing Shayla mentioned as well. Like through her, well, Anne is her mentor as well, and Anne is canoe and rowing, whatever. But she just says like it allows me to challenge like my own thoughts. Like yes, the sports
Hmm.
are different, but ultimately like you're teaching people, and it's a lot of mental side of things like in rowing as well. So she just said like it just allows me to think critically. Like it allows me to look at things from another perspective, and it does allow me to challenge my own beliefs, because like I've only been involved in a sport where they deal with
Exactly.
similar issues in other sports and they may approach it differently. So yeah, like ultimately like just having conversations, like you said, whether it's informal or formal with other coaches, we're all here for like the same reasons. We all have the same like passion at heart. So like it's really interesting to have the conversations, and sometimes they can go a little bit longer like this, but like it's these conversations are valuable, and it shows that like this is a formal conversation for my project, but at the end of the day like there's a lot that I personally learned through this conversation as well. So
Totally.
ultimately we're supporting
Same.
people, and as coaches, if we aren't supported ourselves, like it's really hard for us to show up and do our job properly. So
Absolutely.
with that in mind, I think that's all the questions I had for today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. And I'm sure I will still be bugging you about other questions that I have about coaching going forward. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, Megan.
Yeah, of course. I will see you next week on our wrap up call for She Can Coach.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and end the recording and then stop recording. Yes.